Hello, Math 96. So this is a review. If you want to retake the last quiz, go ahead and go to Aries, check your grade on your last quiz. And then if you want to do a retake, please take out a piece of paper and complete the examples in this video. And then upload this review paper to your digital workbook on assignment number 45. It'll be at the end. And then retakes will be given this week on Thursday and Friday during async time. Okay, one of the first things you need to know for this quiz to be successful is how a problem looks and how you're supposed to factor it. So for the first problem, it starts with a 3x squared right here. Because it has a 3x squared, you must divide out on the magic x because you have a 3 in front of the x squared. Now anything with an x squared, so this one, and this one, require the use of the magic x, and it says so right in the directions right there, right? So because it has x squared, you know that you're working with the magic x. But sometimes on the magic x you divide out and sometimes you don't. When you don't divide out, so you do not have to divide out, is when it has a lead of 1. This one on the top, you would be drawing your magic x and writing 3x on both sides so that you would divide out, right? But it doesn't make sense to divide by 1. So when you have just a plain 1x squared in the front, you do not divide out on the magic x. It should be an easier factoring for you. Now when you use a magic x, you have to have 3 pieces. This one only has 2 pieces, so you must add in 0x into the middle. When you do that, you leave the 16 negative and you add in 0x. And now there's a hidden 1, and you just multiply front and back, and you ask yourself what multiplies to negative 16 and gives me 0. And then that would be obviously 4 times negative 4. 4 minus 4 is 0, so this would be x minus 4, x plus 4. Now, when don't you use the magic x? You don't use the magic x when you don't have x squared in the front. So this is just x minus 16. Doesn't have x squared, it's just x. So in this case, you just add parentheses around it, x minus 16. If you had something like x plus 4, or x minus 9, or x plus 33. If they're just a plain x with a number, eventually that expression will get canceled. So you just add parentheses to group them. Now, when your x has an exponent higher than x squared, in this case, x to the 4th, then you have to use GCF factoring. And for this one, the answer for this is right here. So what can you take out from each item? 25 and 5 both have a 5. And then you always take out the back amount of x's. So x cubed comes out. Then you just ask yourself what's left. Well, out of 25x to the 4th, I took out a 5, so I have a 5 left, and I have an x left. Put the minus sign in. If I took out the whole 5x cubed, there's only a placeholder of 1 left for this back amount. So GCF factoring is one of the more difficult ones for students. I would refer you to page 59 of your notes, because that's where we did all the GCF factoring. Now, page 3 of your notes, in order to do the factoring, is your chart that looks like this. And page 61, 63, 64, 70, and 71, this is all the magic X factoring. Okay? And this is your chart. So those are the pages in your notebook that you should be referring to. Okay, let's get started. If you can take a minute and hit pause and go ahead and write down this problem. Hit pause, please. Okay, so the first thing is just the setup. So you're going to draw a bar for this middle bar. And you're going to put the f of x function, which is this one, on the top. And the g of x function on the bottom. And then all you're going to do is factor. Oops, sorry. So for the first one, there's a hidden one, right? So you're just going to multiply front and back for your magic x. So 1 times negative 30 is negative 30. What multiplies to negative 30 and gives you negative 13. Since it has a 1, you can just put an x and an x. Now just find the numbers of 30 that give you a negative 13. So here's the numbers of 30. You have to be careful because 10 and 3 and 15 and 2 could both give you 13. You need a negative 13. So you have to be careful. So which set would give you a negative 13? It is not 10 and 3. You would have to have negative 10 plus another negative 3 to equal negative 13. Well, why isn't it that? Because you must also multiply to the top number, which is a negative 30. And negative 10 times negative 3 is equal to a positive 30. And that does not match your top. So the 10 and the 3 won't work. It's going to have to be the 15 and the 2. So what kind of 15 and 2 would add up to negative 13? And what kind of 15 and 2 would multiply to a negative 30? Well, I have to have one of them to be one positive, one negative. So is negative 15 plus 2 equal to negative 13? Yes. And is negative 15 times positive 2, negative 30. So we need a negative 15 and a positive 2. You have to be careful. There are options. You have to use your calculator if you need extra help with those signs. Okay, so I'm going to start working my answer here. So on the top, I have 2 parentheses, and I'm going to put in x minus 15 and x plus 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and start working the bottom one. So I multiply front and back. This again gives me negative 30. Well, multiplies to negative 30 and gives me a positive 1. And you have to be careful. This has a lead of 3, so we have to put 3x, 3x, and we're going to have to divide out. So what multiplies to a 30 and gives us 1? It's got to be the 6 and the 5. I need a positive 1, so wouldn't that just be 6 minus 5 equals positive 1? And 6 times negative 5 equals negative 30. So this will be a positive 6 and a negative 5. A lot of times what students do is they just look right here. 6 minus 5 is 1. 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. Okay. See if I can erase that. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it wasn't perfect. Okay. Lost my 6. So now you have to divide out, and it'll be on this side where it makes sense to divide by 3. So that'll be x plus 2, and this side just comes down, 3x minus 5. And that's what we're going to put into our bottom parenthesis. So x plus 2 and 3x minus 5. Now at this point, something should match, otherwise you did your factoring wrong. Something should match in the top with something in the bottom, an entire parenthesis. So x plus 2 on the top cancels with the x plus 2 on the bottom, and the final answer is what is left. So we have x minus 15 on the top and 3x minus 5 on the bottom. You cannot cancel anymore because the parentheses don't match. So that's an example where you do not divide out because we had the lead of 1. And on the bottom where you do divide out because you have a lead of 3. Okay, on the next one, can you take a minute to go ahead and write that down? And this will be multiplication. I'm going to draw on here just what kind of factoring there is. And again, we're referring back to this sheet. So on this one, we have one of everything. Well, one of almost everything. So we have GCF factoring on the bottom. We have to add in the 0x, and we have divide out. Okay. So right here, because it has x to the 9th, we know that's GCF. Right here, we have to add in 0x. Right here, we just add parentheses. And we know that because it does not have x squared. It's just a plain x. And this is magic x with divide out. So since it's a multiply, you can just think of this as one big line. So I'm just going to draw one big line, and I'm going to go one at a time. I'm going to tackle the GCF right here. I'm going to do that off to the side. So when you do GCF, you put one parenthesis, and you take out to the left side what's common. So 10 and 5 obviously have a 5 in common. And then you always take out the back amount of x's. So x to the 8th comes out. And then you just start dealing with each item separately. I had 10, I divide by 5, so I have 2 left. I had x9, I took x8 out, so I have an x left. Put my minus sign in. And then I had 5x8, and I took out all of 5x8, so I have a placeholder of 1. And that would be my factoring for GCF. Okay, the next one on the top is just x plus 2, so I'm just going to bring that down. So I brought this one down. Now I'm going to work on the bottom. This one I have to add in 0x. I know I have to do a magic x because it has x squared. I add 0x because it needs to be 3 pieces. I'm going to draw my magic x. There's a hidden 1, so it's what multiplies to -4 and gives me 0. Right over here, multiplies to 4, gives me 0, would be a 2 and a -2. 2 minus 2 is 0. Since it's a plain 1, I just write x, and I need 2 minus 2. And that'll go in the bottom set of parentheses. And you can already see that we're going to start canceling because there's an x plus 2 in the top and the bottom. You can always hit pause if you need a moment on this video. Okay, then we're going to do the bottom one over here. We have to divide out. How do we know that? Because it has an 8x squared in the front. Just like this sheet says, you must divide out. On this one, it had a 3x squared in the front, right? So I'm just going to write the whole problem over here if my pen will write. So I have some room. Multiply front and back is 8 times -3 is -24. So it gives me a 24 negative with a positive 2. So here's our list for 24. I could get to a 2 using 6 and 4. So what kind of 6 and 4 gives me positive 2? Obviously positive 6 minus 4 would equal a positive 2. So don't forget, because it has 8x, you have to write 8x so that you can divide out. So 6 minus 4. Now we have to divide out. Sometimes you divide once. Sometimes you divide both. In this particular problem, we're going to divide both. Now, on the right side, I know I can divide by 4s. And on this side, I can only divide by 2s. Otherwise, I would get fractions. Those are the only numbers I can choose to make sure that I don't get fractions. So this one would produce 4x plus 3, and this one would give you 2x minus 1. So that's going to go in the parentheses here. And you can see there's a 2x minus 1 on the top. So that reinforces, since I have something that's matching, it reinforces that I'm on the right track. So this 2x minus 1 will cancel with the 2x minus 1. The x plus 2 and the x plus 2 cancels, and whatever's left is your final answer. So I have a 5x to the 8th on the top, and 2 parentheses on the bottom, one with an x minus 2 and the other with 4x plus 3. So this is the factoring that it's divide out. And sometimes you have to divide on both sides. Now remember, when you divide out, this 4 with this 2 totals up to that 8 by multiplication. 2 times 4 is 8. So it has to match the front number. Sometimes that's an extra little hint. Okay, so there's your final answer for that one. And you can hit pause if you need a minute. Go ahead and write that one down. Okay, so when you have division, you leave the front fraction alone. You change it to multiply. And this entire back fraction, you flip. So now we need to rewrite this again. Leave the front one alone. Change it to multiply and flip over the back fraction. That is the rule that you use when you are doing division. I'm just going to give myself some more room. You can always hit pause and rewind on the video if you need some extra time. Okay, so we've changed this to division. All right. Let me see if I can erase this one. I don't want to cooperate. So what kind of factoring do we have here? So let's look. This one's GCF. I know that because it has 33 and 66. How much is 33 plus 33? 66. So I can pull out a 33. This one we have to add in 0x to the middle. This is just a magic X. Easy because it has a hidden 1 in the front. This is magic X with division. Okay. So since it's multiply now, I can just draw one straight bar. I'm going to do this GCF first. So I know that I can pull out 33. I put the parentheses. This would be x minus 2. Because 33 plus 33 is 66, right? I'm going to stay up on the top and do this next one where it's just a magic X. So I'm going to need 2 parentheses. I'm going to do that off to the side. So x squared minus 9x minus 36. So what multiplies? Remember, it's just a hidden 1. So it's negative 36. That gives us negative 9. And over here is the list of 36. So what would give you a 9 negative? So it's got to be subtract. So it's got to be a 12 and a 3. I need a -9, so -12 plus 3 is equal to -9. And it would also multiply to a -36, so this will be x minus 12, x plus 3. And again, -12 plus 3 is -9, and 12 times 3, -12 times 3 is -36, right? So you can always double check that right on your magic X. Go ahead and hit pause if you need a minute to write that down. Okay. So the next one is the bottom left. It has an x squared, so I know it needs a magic X. It only has 2 pieces, so I add in the middle piece. It's got a hidden 1. So it's asking you what multiplies to -9, because 1 times -9, it gives you 0. Obviously, 3 minus 3 would give you 0, and 3 times 3 is a -9. It's one of the easier ones to factor. All right, 3 times -3 is -9 on the top, and 3 minus 3 is 0 on the bottom. Go ahead and hit pause if you need a minute. Okay, and then the bottom one is magic X with division, and we know that because it has a 4 in the front. So 4x squared, 47x minus 12. So we're going to multiply front and back. 4 times -12 is -48. So what gives us, multiplies to 48 and gives us a 47. And since it has a 4x, I got to go 4x, 4x. Well, obviously, what multiplies to 48 and gives us a 47, 48 and 1. I need a -47, so -48 plus 1 would equal -47. So I need a -48 and a +1. And the only place we can divide is on the left side. We can divide by 4s. So this would be x minus 12, and this one would be 4x plus 1. And again, you can hit pause if you need a minute. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and cancel. Things should match. So I have x plus 3 and x plus 3, and I have x minus 12 and x minus 12, and the rest is in the final answer. So I have a 33 next to an x minus 2, and on the bottom I have an x minus 3 and a 4x plus 1. Okay, so just remember to upload this work paper onto slide assignment number 45. Make sure you're here on Thursday and Friday during async time. If this paper is not uploaded, you cannot take the retake on the quiz. Let me know if you need some more help. I will be inviting everyone to Thursday and Friday, 8:35 a.m. intervention. You'll get that through Google Classroom. Make sure you click on the special Google Meet link, and you can also come in for extra help during that time before the quiz on Thursday and Friday. Okay? Thank you, guys.